Hello, 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 everyone. This is Coach Powell from Coffee Tea, You and Me. I know I'm starting to show off late today. I do apologize for everybody. We are having an existential crisis over here, basically a technology issue that made me have to start the show a little late. I do apologize for that. For those of you who are watching it, we are going to have a great show today, though. What we're going to present to you today is literally going to be some of the world-class training, some of the things that I've been thinking about and talking about and sharing for years, but I haven't really codified it in a systematic way that's going to be useful until now. I'm literally talking about the mindset. And this is the beginning of a series that we're going to be doing on networking. We're going to teach you all the ins and outs, all the strategies, all the techniques that you could use to become an excellent networker. So if you follow us along, through the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about all of the 9 steps to masterful professional business relationships, right? What do you need to do from soup to nuts? Whether you want to strengthen your current professional relationships and move them into people like your advisory council or people that might finance your business or support you in a very, very big way, you're going to have to strengthen those relationships, right? There's people that you already have, your professors, people that you may have worked under at some point in time, or people that you just generally respect in the marketplace, in your area of expertise or your industry. You're going to need to strengthen those relationships. But there's also new people that you don't know, that you're not going to have to start from scratch in terms of building relationships, even if you haven't met them, because we're going to teach you how to bring so much credibility to the table immediately that you create a strong relationship than you could have created in years of back and forth emails and conferences and all those types of things. So we're going to help you put your relationships on the fast path to greatness. And we're going to give you everything you need to be just brilliant in that space and in that world. And so there won't be any excuses left for why you can't do what you think you should do and all that kind of good stuff. We're gonna take it all off your plate and we're gonna get you set up. Ultimately, when you start to develop your professional relationships correctly, what's gonna happen is you're gonna be able to run through what we call the 9 steps to professional relationships in a way that's gonna make a tremendous amount of sense. But I want you to really get yourself in this episode to start focusing and thinking about the mindset that you're going to need. And what I'm going to do for the next couple of minutes as I start to load up some of the programs and things that I already have set up for you, I'm going to put some music on for you to listen to. And I'm going to come off screen and you're going to be able to do that and make sure that everything is going the way it needs to go. And then I'm going to come back. It's going to take me about 5 minutes. So if you're logging on, just be patient. We'll be right back, and I'll make sure I put that information in the chat. If you're following us on LinkedIn, on Facebook, or even on YouTube, feel free to announce in the chat who you are, where you're coming from, anything you want us to know about your business. If you have a freebie that you want to give out, or even a cost item, it doesn't really matter. This is a business-friendly channel. We want to make sure that everybody who has a voice and has an opportunity to communicate can do so here. Because we represent and communicate and love to work with small women, minority-owned businesses, anybody who's a startup, anybody who is thinking about starting a business. We want to create a business-friendly environment for you. So if you have a question or a thought, definitely put it out there. My girl Lori's on. Thank you so very much for logging on, Lori. Really appreciate you. I'm going to take a quick little break because I had to start the show late. And I got some things I got to clean up before we get into the meat and the potatoes of today's conversation. But I want you to think through, what would you think the mindset that you need to have before you begin building a true network, a really good, solid, professional network? What do you need to be doing in terms of how you're thinking and what you're doing on a really consistent basis to create that network and then to maintain that network? Because that's the topic of today. And I just started thinking about it. If you have some ideas that you want to share, jot them down in the chat. put down some things that you want to do, and I'll make sure that we discuss them during our discussion period. And while you're doing that, I'm gonna cue up some good, fun music for you guys. Yeah, I like this one. All right, and I'm gonna be right back. Okay. We are ready to get this party going and ready to start rocking and rolling. Thank you guys so much for coming to the show today. This is Coffee Tea, You and Me. I do this show every single Friday, usually in the hours from 3 to 5. I know I started a little late this today because of technical difficulties, but I want to let you know the reason why we do the show. We do the show because we care so much about the small business community, and it is my pleasure and my joy to be a consultant, to be a coach, to be a mentor and advisor to as many small businesses as I can. The space that I have to do that is this space right here. And so when you want, you can get to me complimentary, ask me any question. I'll answer those questions. I won't hold anything back. I always have an agenda of what I want to talk about, but I'm always open and available to whatever you guys want to talk about. So at any point in time, if you have a discussion, if a thought, or something that you want to share, if it's something that you're doing in your business and you want everybody to know about it, feel free to post it in the chat. There's not going to be any, as long as it's not salacious or anything, we're not going to have any problems with that, right? But if it is, I'm just going to remove it. So don't you worry about that. Just go ahead and promote your business, your ideas, things that you want to talk about. This is going to be a lot of fun, and I hope a lot of engaging goes along. So I've posted some things in the chat myself that I want you to take a look at. The first thing I want you to take a look at is an article that I wrote in LinkedIn. Here's why I want you to take a look at this article, because over the next few weeks, I'm going to be talking about the masterful techniques that everybody needs to learn to become a better professional relationship builder. Whether it's your networking or whatever regions you're networking, you need to do it right, because it costs so much to do it wrong. And I don't want anybody to say that they didn't have the right steps in front of themselves. But before you even begin those steps, and you're going to have that information is right in front of you, but you can always download that in the chat. I would like you to read this article. If you haven't read it already, check out this article, because the reason why is a mindset that you probably need to embrace before you even try to become a good networker, before you even try to open your mind up to go, like, let me invite somebody in to my world and my professional development space, into where I'm going to be, my vision and all that kind of stuff, because your network is serious business. The people that you surround yourself with, the people that you depend on, the people that depend on you, is all serious business. And it's not just for your personal financial success. I'm talking about for your success as a human being, for your ability to function and to go from just surviving to thriving, which I hope that's what you want to do. I hope that's what everybody wants to do. I hope you want to leave a meaningful legacy. I hope that you want to create a life and a business or practices in your professional life that are going to help you feel satisfied and feel like you have a destiny and a purpose for your space, the time you spend here on this wonderful planet we call Earth, right? I want you to have that thought mind. I want you to have that mindset, and I want you to have those activities that support that mindset. So part of that is planning. Now, I'm not the planner extraordinaire. I mean, I've done a good job of planning things that I want to plan for myself and my business in the future, but I would never call myself a planning expert. I am an implementation expert. But I know in order for you to implement, you must have a good plan. And that means you have to spend time really getting your thoughts and your mind together, really getting the things together that you need to think about to move yourself and your teams forward in a meaningful way. So you cannot do that without reflection. You cannot do that without data, information. You cannot do that without research, your homework on yourself and on the marketplace that you play in. All of that matters. In fact, I'm going to suggest, if you don't understand your true voice, right? Your true voice is an acronym that I created many years ago, and I write about it in the article, and there's plenty of data to support what True Voice is all about. But True Voice is a program I put together because I realized that there are a lot of people like me out there who really need to not just do stuff because somebody else said so, but to do something, do the things you want to do in your world because it makes a difference or means something to you. So your true voice, if you could be your authentic self in every space that you got to play in. If you could bring everything that you have to the table in terms of your contribution, whether that contribution is time, talent, or treasure, when you can get your true voice to shine in a space where you've actually heard, believed, understood, and expected. You created the right kind of environment around you where you have the right kind of support systems available to you that you can thrive in. That's what True Voice is all about. That's what the True Voice program is all about. And that's why I created it. It's to help people start to move from that mindset that goes, well, I just got a job, or this is my role, and as long as I'm in my role, then I'm good. Or, whatever little limiting factor that you have placed on yourself usually. I need you to look at that and see it for what it really is. It is a factor that you've placed on yourself, and learning how to open yourself up to greater and greater opportunities than you can even imagine yourself is what True Voice is all about. Finding your space where you can shine and allowing that space to take you to places where, phenomenal things can happen. Things that you could never think about can happen. So let's talk about True Voice. What is True Voice? It's an acronym, right? It's an acronym, and it's very, very specific in terms of what that acronym stands for. And I wrote it in this article. I use it to understand this article of literally why networking sucks. Networking sucks because we're not asking the right questions first of ourselves before we go and ask those questions of other people. And the cost of that is disastrous. I was just talking to a friend of mine about this. And when you try to put an energy out into the universe that you haven't fully embraced for yourself, what tends to happen is you begin to understand, and your brain begins to understand, more importantly, that you're not being authentic and you're not putting the right energy out there in a way that you can be then credible in that space, right? So you're basically faking it till you make it, or you're talking trash, or you're making things up to try to make people believe what is not true, right? And that doesn't feel good to you. It doesn't feel good to anybody else. But the person who knows about it first is you. You know that you're not representing the true voice, the real situation as it is. And learning how to do this will help you do a lot of things, right? And the questions that I think I learned to ask of others really made a big difference when I turned to ask those same questions to myself. So we're going to go through the questions. So in exposing that, we're going to expose the True Voice acronyms, right? The True Voice acronyms it's about vision, obstacles that you face, your instinct, your commitments, and the environment that you're dealing with. When you have a good handle on these ideas and these concepts for yourself, and then you start to help other people have a good handle on it for themselves, what happens as a result is you get to create the kind of relationship that can escalate to the highest levels of trust quickly. Let me start to help you deal with some of the questions. And as I ask you the questions, you could type in the chat, what you're thinking about them. You could type yes or no. These are yes or no questions. But I would love it if you would type in the chat yes or no. And if you have an explanation of why you say yes or no, that'd be great to do too. Because the more you engage with your answers, no matter what your answers are, the better you're going to be able to retain this information, and you're going to be able to use this information moving forward. Plus, what's in the chat will always be in the chat. You can always go back to it, and people will comment on it. And you'll never know, kind of relationships you might build as a result, because people might think the same way you're thinking about it. You might get some feedback or some concept from the social media is, right? So it doesn't matter if you're following us on LinkedIn or YouTube, on Facebook. There's a chat available. So let's talk about it. Question number 1. Do you have a well-written, brilliantly articulated vision that motivates powerful actions from yourself and key supporters in your network? That's a yes or no question. Do you have a well-written, brilliantly articulated, clear vision that motivates powerful actions from yourself and key supporters in your network. The reason why this question is critically important, because your ability to communicate effectively what your vision is and what that means for you is helpful when people begin to start to assess for themselves what could they bring to the table to help you accomplish that vision. It also makes you, in their mind, a person who knows where you're going, right? It says to them, you have a sense of destiny's call on your life, on your business. You have a purpose that rings true to you. And it sounds, because you can brilliantly articulate what that is, it sounds like you've thought through where you're going, right? You have an idea of what that looks like, what's going to be like, what it's going to feel like, what are you going to be, do, and have when you've arrived at that sense or that space in the future, right? This is critically important because everybody wants to work with winners. Everybody wants to work with people who know where they're going, what they're all about, why they're going the direction they're going. And the more you can clearly articulate that vision, the better you're going to be at recruiting, assessing, developing resources that are going to get you where you want to go. Question number 2. Are you absolutely comfortable with your well-rehearsed strategies and techniques that have been expertly designed to overcome obstacles, both seen and unseen? Now, I already know the question, right? This is a yes or no question. Do you have it? You can answer the question for yourself, but think about it. If you don't have a plan that you can discuss about how you're going to deal with the risks, how you're going to deal with the obstacles that you know are out there, it looks like you haven't really thought it through. It feels like you haven't really thought it through. If you can't articulate it with some power and some passion, next thing you know, people are going to go, well, how do you know what you say you know that you actually know? But here's the thing. We all have this natural penchant, I would say even bias, to take what people say with confidence and assume competence. Now, it does matter if we've been burned several times with people who speak with forked tongue, right? People who don't actually speak the truth, or they may be speaking the truth that they believe, but there's no other credibility, no credible space in which that will be believable, whatever they're saying, so I get that, where you're coming from. A lot of people have that doubt. They don't believe anything anybody ever says, and they need proof of everything. And I'm all about always being able to verify what it is that you say, what it is that you believe. Where'd you get that source of information? Where'd you come from when you said this thing, is true or is believable? Because if you don't have anything to back it up and it's just a feeling, now you have to justify and let me know, how many times your feelings worked out in the right way, and who can prove that? Where's your third-party evidence on this? Where's the recommendations? Where is the people who have said yes to what you're talking about and will stand with you in acceptance and understanding of whatever that is? Because if you don't have credibility that's coming with your plans and your claims and the things that you are trying to get to and the passion that you have behind it, and the energy you have to put together the plan to make it happen, then I think you got some work to do before you start looking for support. Right? You don't have to have a fully fleshed out all the way detailed plan, but you do have to have a pretty good one, that doesn't have a lot of holes in it, that's easy for people to see. Because if it does have a lot of holes in it, and it can be from any direction, which I get into in the deeper part of this document, which I don't have time to get into today, but there is a litmus test that you can use in any plan when it comes to the people part of the plan to really assess, are you playing with the right people? Have you gotten the right information in the right way with the right people to make sure this plan is launching? Do we have a team that is a good team? How do you know it's a good team? And what are they adding to this plan that's going to help you validate and verify that this, in fact, is a workable plan? That's what I'm talking about. These are obstacles that, if you haven't already thought through, anybody with any sense have traveled the roads that you're trying to travel, even if it's a new road, there's a similar road that they've traveled, it's going to look at that and go, you haven't really thought this through. Because you're going to bump into obstacles, seen and unseen, right? Now, the unseen obstacles, let's talk about that really quick. You need to have a space in your journey from here to there, whatever here to there is, right? A space, the spaces where you can relax and assess and really understand how far you've traveled, what you've done that's worked, what you've done that's not worked, what you need to do to change it, to tweak it. You may need to develop some new resources that you didn't know you needed to have, and you need to have space to do that. So in your planning, you need to put in there automatic times for you to make that assessment. If it's going to take a weekend, or if it's going to take 3 days, or whatever that time is, an hour. And it really depends on how the pace of goals are that you're trying to set in your plan. You need to spend space in reflection and assessment and analysis. If you don't have that built-in part of your plan, I would suggest you do it, because nobody can go full tilt all the way in every situation all the time. You got to take breaks. Breaks allow you to reflect. Breaks allow you to recover from whatever damage has been done to your systems, to yourself, or whatever the situation is. And then you're able to then heal and then come back stronger. It's super, super important that you plan that in your whatever plan that you have for 2024. You got to have it. And if you're talking about a networking plan, how you're going to develop those professional relationships, then you need to assess at some point what is working. I mean, how many times can you go out to dinner with somebody, or go to lunch with somebody, or spend money, time, effort, and energy on somebody in some different way, and you're not collecting any data? It's not working. You got to change up. You got to figure out how you're going to come at this differently, right? Number 3, instinct. Can you trust beyond the shadow of a doubt that your gut instinct, girded with practical experience, is strong enough to guide you through and lead you to the right decisions most often? Now, what I've just described is integrity. Integrity is self-trust. If you know in your heart of hearts, down deep in your gut, right, that your instinct of what you're planning to do, what you're trying to do, is absolutely correct, it's golden, and you are full on ready to take it on, right? And you have the resources that you need, you have the experience that you need, you have everything that you need to guide your decisions and make sure that you're doing things in proper order, proper technique, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff is good. Then your answer should be yes to that question. But if you don't, in any way, shape, or form, then your answer should be no. There's no shades of gray here. I know in real life there are shades of gray, but in terms of answering this question, if you're not full on yes, then you're full on no. And it's super important that you figure out ways to get the experience that you need, so that your instinct and your wisdom and your insight to what you're doing can be trusted, not by other people, but by you first. We're talking about integrity, self-trust, right? When you can get that done, and you know you can get that done, then your answer should be yes to that question. Question number 4, commitment. Will you be able to marshal the commitment of time, talent, and treasure that's needed to execute flawlessly and quickly when the necessary hearts and minds to your cause? Because we're talking about networking here, right? You're going to have to be able to talk to people, email people, text people, communicate with people in whatever forms, use social media, use DMs, whatever you can do to win them to your cause. If you don't even know what your cause is, and you're not even committed to it, and you can't articulate it brilliantly, like all the things we talked about earlier, how are you going to win somebody to that? If you win somebody to that and they say, yes, I'm interested, I want to play with you, I want to work with you, I want to align with you, right? you do that, what are they really aligning to? What are they really interested in? I tell people all the time, and these professional relationships work very similarly to your personal relationships. You may be interested in somebody for whatever reasons you're interested in them, but the reasons you're interested in them may have nothing to do with why they think you should be interested in them. And so it's really important when you're delivering the message that you're receiving the right message, and or when you're delivering the message, that you're delivering the right message, and you're not just relying on another person's perception of what the message might be. So super, super important, because yes, your eyes can meet across the crowded room, and you can go, I'm seeing what you're putting down, I'm liking what I'm seeing, and now I'm interested. But that's just enough to win your interest. That's not enough to win your heart and mind. The heart and mind comes with an understanding of who you are and where you sit and where you are. And a mutual understanding is when you get to that point where you're able to then commit fully to whatever it is you're trying to commit to. But until you have that mutual understanding, you can't make that commitment. If you try to make that commitment before you have that mutual understanding, what you're going to have is mismanaged expectations. And I'm sure we've dealt with that in work and in different places we've been in your life. I'm sure you've dealt with that. If you're a professional in any way, shape, or form, if you've been around the block even more than a year out in the real world, you're going to realize that people mismanage expectations all the time, because what they see is not what they get. And oftentimes what they get, they don't really want when they figure out what it is they have. But they were all about it when they first saw it, right? So think about, what are you doing to expose all of the truth that you need to expose to people who need to hear those truths in order to win their hearts and minds? Because if you're not telling them everything they need to know, and I mean the good, the bad, the ugly, they're making commitments based on half-truths and falsehoods and not enough information to fully commit. So what happens when you engage with people and you don't make a full commitment? What do you think tends to happen when the going gets rough? The work gets hard. The productivity is challenged. The opportunity starts to wane. The thing that you promised to do seems to not be able to come into fruition. And as a result, that commitment takes people in a disastrous direction. And this is super, super important. So you need to be able to answer yes to this question in order to know that you have the right people on board with you. If you can't, then your answer needs to be no. You're not able to. You don't know how to. You haven't marshaled the commitment of the time, talent, and treasure that you need to execute whatever plan you have. Like I told you earlier, I'm an execution specialist. So I know that it's going to take resources. And I know it's going to take committed resources. And I know it's going to take the committed resources of yourself and other people to create amazing results in anything. Because nobody could do it by themselves sustainably. You might be able to do it by yourself for a couple months, maybe even a year. If you're a hard charger, you can go for it for 5 years. But here's the problem. At some point, you run out of juice, because you need others to help you stay relevant. You need others to help remind you of who you are. You need others to make sure that the commitment that you made is still meaningful and significant in the world that you exist in now. Because what it was 5 years ago might not be what it is. It definitely won't be what it is today. Let's just forget about that, right? Time changes everything, right? So you have to always stay relevant and stay meaningful. And you don't even know you're relevant and meaningful if you're not in connection with people that matter towards whatever relevance and meaning that is in your life, in your business. It's impossible for you to know. How would you know? You're out there by yourself. Swinging for the fences, that's wonderful. But at some point, you got to check. Is anybody with me? Am I doing anything that makes a difference for anybody else's life besides myself? I can't claim that I'm winning if I'm not really winning, right? So you want to be winning. So guess what you need to do? You got to play with others. That's how you know you're winning. You guys might challenge me on that, but if you have a question or thought about that, literally, you get yes or no. It's a yes or no question. The last question I want to ask you, and then we're going to break down and discuss a few things, is about the environment. And that's the fifth element of the true voice system. When the environment begins to conjure up forces that are far beyond your control, do you have an effective plan in place to mitigate the risks and gain control of things? And again, do you have that plan in place? And again, a lot of questions about planning. Why? Because it's so important. Your environment is not something you can generally control. The political, economic, social, technological, legal, and ecosystem, very difficult for you to control. But that doesn't mean you get to ignore it and act like it is not there. It's there, and it has an impact on everything that you're going to do. And so you need to understand how that impact is going to be felt by you and your team, the people that you're going to put in place. And you want to make sure that you've done everything that you can to effectively plan to mitigate those risks. If you tell me you got a plan in place and it has no risks, I'm going to ask you what you're smoking. In fact, I know whatever it is you're smoking, it ain't the good stuff because it's not true, right? You need to be able to assess and assist yourself in coming up with those right plans and mitigating those risks. Because if you've done that well, then you can boldly say with confidence, yes to that question. Really, that's really what it's all about. Now, why do you think I discuss all this stuff, when it comes to planning to create a powerful network? Because a powerful network has a look and feel to it that's probably different than the network that you currently have. And let me be clear about that. Marshall Goldsmith wrote a brilliant book that I suggest everybody reads called What Got You Here Won't Get You There. There are people in your network that have gotten you where you are today. And they may or may not be the same people that you need to get you where you want to go. You may need to strengthen some of those relationships. You may need to abandon others of those relationships. And you may need to embrace even new relationships with more powerful people that you know, like, and trust, or that you have a tremendously high level of respect for, right? And let me just clarify one point. Respect. When I say people that you have a respect for, I mean respect in the traditional definition of the word respect. And respect means to adore someone or hold them in high regard. And it's very, very specific. It's not adore them completely for every aspect of their character or their job. It's just something specific about them that you adore. It's something specific about them and their characteristics that you hold in high regard. That is respect. All the mumbo jumbo we've been giving each other for years about I respect everybody, I respect it. You cannot respect people that you do not know. That is not correct. I don't get off on words so much in terms of the correct definition and all that kind of stuff as much as I do. But I think some of these words we throw around liberally and saying, this is disrespectful. And it's impossible for somebody who doesn't know you to disrespect you, because they can't hold you in high regard. They can't hold you in high esteem. They can't adore you. They don't know enough about you to adore you. And the real question you should ask is, how are you presenting the you that deserves to be adored and held in high regard, so that people can see what is it about you, your characteristics, and the things you bring to the table that they should respect. Because guess what? If it's not on display, You don't get to have it automatically. It's not a right or privilege. It is what it is. And so if you want authentic respect, I would suggest the first thing you do is start to look for the things that you really respect in other people and show them and praise them. Show them. I have a program called the RAP report, right? Or the RAP approach. RAP is another acronym. It stands for respect, affection, and praise. When you found something about somebody that you think is wonderful and brilliant, and you don't share that thought with them, shame on you. Because how else will they know they've done or said something meaningful, something significant, something relevant, right? How would they know unless you share that with them? So it's your responsibility, my point of view, to share your respect, your affection, and your praise for people that have richly deserved it every time you come upon it. In fact, look for it. You know you. You know what makes you tick. You know what makes you excited, what gets you energized, what gets you passionate about something. And if it is an opportunity for you to share it with somebody, it doesn't matter. Share it. By the way, last thing I'm going to say on this, and then I'm going to answer questions that you guys may have if you have any. Social media is social first, media second. So think about the times when you're going to post something or share something or something, whatever content that you have. How much engagement are you really looking for? How much engagement do you expect? How much engagement do you call for? Because it's that engagement that makes it social. Other than that, it's just media. It's just marketing. It's just messages that you post out with no understanding of who you're posting it with, no understanding of what it means to them, no understanding of who they are and what their character might be. And so how are you going to use that if you don't ever do that, right? So I've gave you some hints on what we're going to be talking about next week, when we're going to start talking about the first steps. And I already posted it in the training in the chat, so you can get to it. And for those of you watching this on LinkedIn, you probably can't get to the chat, but I will post it in the show notes, both the training guide for today's talk, which is the article that I wrote about networking sucks and the 5 things you need to do to get out of that process, right? Get through that process, the assessments that you need to do for yourself and for others. And then next, you're going to get into the 9 steps. And the 9 steps, we'll start that process. And 9 steps are already laid out there for you. I would suggest that you read both today's article and the PDF file that I sent you. That's going to show up on the links to the 9 steps, because the more you get involved, the more you engage, the more you ask questions about anything, the more it's going to help your brain start to create the right mindset and the right processes that are going to be needed for you to excel in this space. Crystal, I see you out there. I love to know where you're coming from and what you're doing. I see Lori's out there. Lori said something about let me see what Lori said here. It'll all read. That's all right there. The mindset one must have will vary, but I think first and foremost, before you start reaching out, you have to know your own worth and the value you can provide. That's really what True Voice is all about. Is figuring out who you are and what your space is and where you're going to play. You know who you are. Really, what it's all about. It's funny. I got that. I started thinking about that when I was in my 20s, and the gentleman who created Kwanzaa, Dr. Maulana Karenga, put forward a philosophy that he brought from ancient Africa. And the philosophy was called Kawaida theory. Not to get too technical, but it asks 3 questions. Who am I? Am I really who I say I am? And am I all that I ought to be? And then answering those 3 questions and beginning and sort of thinking through, working through those questions, you discover all those things that Lori's talking about. Your value, what you bring to the table, what's meaningful. Are you really who you say? That authenticity is in there. And then where are you going? Are you all that you need to be? And then you begin to think about, okay, where am I going? Here's where I am. I got where I am, and I really am grounded in that. I get it. Now, where am I going? And I use that as a premise when I started putting the True Voice process together. I'm one of several different philosophies that I brought into that. But it's super, super important as a human being that you're able to understand your value, like Lori said, and you have to be able to not just understand your value, but then express that value for others, because then it becomes a communal and shared value. It becomes valuable because other people say it's also valuable. You see what I'm saying? You can believe it all you want, right? But if nobody else is going to go, well, you know what? I agree. That is valuable. Then is it valuable? Because you start asking that did the tree fall in the woods? Did anybody hear it? Kind of thing, if nobody was around. And you have that circle that you get into. But once you get other people start to validate, especially people that you respect, that's why networking is important. People that you respect, people that you hold in high regard, right? When you get them to start going and validating the things that you're saying and doing and being about and expressing, now you know you have something. This is something that, guess what? If people in your current network love it and appreciate it, people in your new network might also love it and appreciate it. But this is what I call abundance thinking, right? Because there are things that are talents, there's gifts, there are things that we have in abundance, right? If you can understand what you have to bring, what you bring to the table that's in abundance, the next question you have to ask yourself is, who really needs that? And again, it could be time, it could be talent, or treasure. Now, treasure is a proxy for money or tangible resources that you can trade, right? So people sometimes hear treasure and they go, what are you talking about? I'm talking about valuable stuff, right? And it could be anything from the rights to intellectual property. It could be a portion of your business revenues. It could be your real actual liquid capital. It could actually be anything that you own and control and can trade could be treasure. And your talent could be treasure. And your time could be treasure, right? So it's all valuable. The question is, what do you have in excess that you can share with others, and who would appreciate that? Now, what I hope you're coming back with is people that would appreciate it are people that, again, you have a high level of regard and respect for. Because you don't want people in your network who just respect you and it doesn't go both ways, right? You want to have something to trade. You want to have something to share. And the last statement I'm going to make, and I'm going to close it down if anybody has any questions, is from Zig Ziglar. And he taught me this very, very years ago. I'll never forget it. He says, life works like this. Whatever it is you value, whatever it is you need to have and you want to get to, you have to give it out in slices. It'll come back to you in loaves. Now, if you've done that true voice process that I suggest correctly, if you've assessed yourself and you've really figured out how to turn your no's into yeses, which a part of it is taught about in the article. If you read the article, you're going to see a lot about, how to turn those no's into yeses. And it essentially boils down to planning, right? Appropriately for your vision, your obstacles, your instincts, your commitments, and your environment. If you do that well, then you're really ready to communicate effectively and talk about where you're going and what you're doing to people who can help you get there. And would be excited about helping you get there because they see you have done what Ayan Leviathan would say, you've done the work. Right? Now, I originally created True Voice as an opportunity to help get into some great conversations with other people. And I realized that if you don't get into those conversations with yourself first, you can't even share with somebody else what an example of your answers would be to those same questions. And you need to be able to do that, again, to give you value and credibility and value in the space that you're in, whatever space you're in or trying to grow into, right? All right, so that's the close. That's the thing, that's the setting up for, all we're gonna talk about for the next few weeks is really understanding, how you get in a situation where you can begin to network effectively. And that really is about setting the environment up correctly, using the True Voice interview process, the True Voice assessment process, and the True Voice process will help you set up the environment that you need to set up in order for you to win the next strategy. Now, a lot of people may go, this is really a lot just to begin to network. And that's because we're taught to give networking a short shrift. We've been taught that it doesn't have a whole bunch of value, and so we can just go around and spread enough pollination of enough flowers and meet as many people as we possibly can. So here's the problem with that. You take a mass marketing approach to a networking strategy, right? You're going to run out of energy before you start to see success. But if you take a very, very streamlined, very focused approach to your networking, you're going to start to see successes right away, or you're going to be able to make adjustments to your strategy right away with people that matter. And that's going to make a whole big difference about your success. Now, I'll get into all the stats and all the statistics and all the data that you need to have starting next week about, what you need to do what you need to know on why networking is beneficial and it's important. But I thought today was a great setup for, to get your mind in the right space so we can begin to talk about that. Lori's out there. I see you. Lori Bush is out there. Lori Smith is out there. Crystal is out there. Great to see you guys. I hope you had a great opportunity. Listen, the chat's going to be available even when we end the show, which will end in a couple seconds. So keep, asking questions, keep sharing information. We want to create an engaged community as much as we possibly can. If you haven't found me on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook, sign up, share this. Don't keep me a secret. I'll do this every Friday, and I try to make sure that I give it everything I got. So again, anybody have any questions, feel free to post it up in the chat. Hit me in the DMs on LinkedIn if you want to. And thank you very much for your time and your attention. I really appreciate it a lot. I had a great time. I hope you did too. And I'm signing off. It's Coach Powell. I'm out.